The grand hall of Vorin Prime was filled with glowing lights, tall warriors, and the loud hum of alien voices. Every species in the Alliance had sent their strongest young fighters for the new peace training program. It was an important event, one that would decide which warriors would stand together in future battles. Among those warriors stood a young human named Eric Hale. He was not tall like the Vorin warriors, not armored like the Groloks, and not fast like the winged Uran soldiers. He wore simple human training gear and stood quietly at the back of the line, hoping no one would notice him too much. But humans were always noticed. Many alien warriors glanced at him and whispered. Humans were new to the Alliance, and most species still believed they were weak, slow, and too emotional for real battles. Eric heard some laughter directed toward him, but he stayed calm. He had learned long ago that silence was sometimes stronger than anger. The hall suddenly became quiet when the doors opened. Vorin Prime's royal family entered, their steps echoing on the shining floor. Leading them was Princess Cerexa, known across the galaxy for her fearless attitude and sharp judgment. She was young, not much older than Eric, but her presence felt powerful. Her armor shimmered like starlight, and her tall form made others step aside without a word. Today's ceremony was important for her too. According to Vorin tradition, every princess had to choose a warrior to stand by her side during the coming trials. Those trials were not friendly games. They were dangerous tests meant to push warriors to their limits. Most expected Cerexa to choose a bold champion, someone famous, someone powerful, someone who would match her fierce reputation. Cerexa walked slowly across the front of the hall, studying each warrior with sharp, thoughtful eyes. Every species stood straighter, hoping she would choose one of their own. The atmosphere was thick with tension, pride, and competition. Eric tried to stay still. He knew she would never pick him. No one here saw humans as worthy partners in a royal trial. Then Cerexa stopped walking. The entire hall fell silent. Her gaze drifted across the crowd of warriors and settled on someone at the back, someone who was not expecting attention at all. Eric felt the weight of her eyes and lifted his head, confused. Without hesitation, Cerexa raised her hand and pointed directly at him. "That one," she said clearly. "That one is mine." Her voice echoed across the hall like a stone dropped into still water. Every warrior turned their head toward Eric with shock. For a few long seconds, no one spoke. Then the whispers began, louder this time, mixed with disbelief and even anger. A human? She chose him? Why him? He's not even armed. Even the Vorin commanders looked stunned. One stepped forward and cleared his throat. "Princess Cerexa," he said carefully. "Are you certain? Perhaps you want to reconsider." "No," she replied, her tone steady and fierce. "I choose the human." Eric felt dozens of eyes staring at him. His heart pounded, but he did not move. He wondered if he had misheard her. But Cerexa continued to stare at him with the same confident expression, waiting for him to step forward. He walked through the rows of warriors, trying his best to keep his step steady. When he reached her, she looked at him with an unreadable expression. Eric bowed slightly, unsure of what to do in front of an alien princess. "I am honored," he said quietly. Some warriors laughed at how simple his voice sounded. Others looked annoyed, as if Cerexa had insulted their entire species by choosing him. But Cerexa did not laugh. She didn't even blink. She only nodded once and turned to face the hall. "The choice is made," she said loudly. The ceremony continued, but Eric barely heard the rest. His mind was full of questions. Why would she choose him? What did she see in him that others could not? He felt out of place. But deep inside, a strange feeling warmed his chest, not pride, but something close to determination. If she trusted him, he would not let her down. After the ceremony ended, Cerexa led him through long stone corridors lit by blue glowing crystals. She moved quickly, forcing Eric to walk faster to keep up. He wondered if he should say something, but her silence made him hesitate. Finally, she stopped in a quiet training chamber. The room was wide, with tall ceilings and practice weapons displayed on racks. Eric stood nervously while she crossed her arms and studied him again, as if she were trying to understand him from every angle. "You are confused," she said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Eric admitted gently. Everyone expected you to choose a strong alien warrior. Why? Why me? Her eyes softened a little, almost like a smile hid behind them. Because strength is not always shown by size or armor. Eric didn't know what to say. He had heard humans being called weak too many times. To hear the opposite from a princess surprised him. There is something inside you, Sorexa continued. Something that others cannot see. I noticed it the moment you entered the hall. Eric frowned slightly. But I didn't do anything. You endured, she said. You heard laughter. You saw doubt. And yet you did not break. You were calm. You did not let their words shape your heart. That is rare. Eric felt his chest tighten. He had always tried to stay calm because losing control often made things worse. But he never imagined it would be seen as strength. Sorexa paced slowly around the room, thinking. There is another reason, she said after a moment. A reason I cannot speak of yet. But know this, I did not choose you by mistake. Her voice held a serious weight, making Eric feel both nervous and curious. Something important was happening here. Something bigger than a training program. Before he could ask anything else, a loud knock echoed from the door. A guard stepped in and bowed to Sorexa. Princess, the council requests your presence. They want to question your decision. Eric felt a sudden stab of worry. He did not want to cause trouble for her. But Sorexa waved her hand calmly. I expected this, she said. I will speak with them. She turned to Arik. Wait here. Touch nothing. Before he could respond, she left the room, the door sliding shut behind her. Eric stood alone, letting everything settle in his mind. He felt both honored and frightened. He knew many warriors disliked him now. Some were angry, some jealous, but he also felt something else, something that pushed away his fear. He felt chosen. While he waited, he walked around the training chamber, looking at the practice weapons and armor. Voran technology was more advanced than anything humans had built. Their armor reacted to movement like living metal. Their blades glowed softly with energy. Eric wondered how any of this would feel in his hands. Time passed slowly, and the chamber remained silent. Eric finally sat on a bench and leaned forward, thinking about his life on Earth, his training days, and the journey that brought him here. Humans had entered the Galactic Alliance only 3 years ago, and he had worked hard to prove they deserved respect. He never expected to be chosen for something this important. He heard footsteps again. The door opened, and Sorexa walked in with a serious look on her face. The council disagrees with my choice, she said plainly. They believe you are too untested. They wanted me to choose a warrior with proven victories. But I refused. Eric felt guilt rise inside him. I don't want to cause problems for you. You are not a problem, Sorexa said firmly. You are my choice, and I stand by it. Her determination surprised him. She barely knew him, yet she defended him with full force. He felt something shift inside him. Respect, gratitude, and a new responsibility he hadn't expected. Sorexa took a deep breath. Our trials begin tomorrow at first light. They will be difficult. Some may even try to make you fail to prove their point. But I want you to stay close to me. Do not react to their anger. Focus only on the test. Eric nodded. I will. For the first time, Sorexa's expression softened into a small, almost hidden smile. Good. I hope my trust in you is well placed. Eric looked at her with honest eyes. I will not disappoint you. She studied him for a long moment as if weighing the truth in his words. Then she stepped toward the exit. Rest now, she said. Tomorrow, the galaxy will see who you really are. Eric watched her leave and felt a strange strength rising inside him. He was still unsure why she chose him. Still unsure of the mystery she refused to explain. But one thing was clear. He had been given a chance no human had ever been given. And he intended to prove that her fearless decision was right. The night on Voran Prime felt long, but for the first time in a long while, Eric did not feel alone. He felt ready. Ready for the trials. Ready for the warriors who doubted him. Ready for whatever reason made Princess Sorexa look at him and say, without fear, "That one is mine." The sun of Vorin Prime rose like a blazing blue flame over the training grounds, casting long shadows across the rows of steel platforms and stone pillars. Eric stood quietly at the edge of the arena, breathing the cool morning air. Today was the beginning of the trials. The tests that would decide which warriors were worthy of serving beside Princess Sorexa. He felt nervous, but he kept his expression calm, just as he had learned to do throughout his life. Other warriors gathered in large groups, stretching, sharpening their energy blades, and checking their armor. Eric had none of that. His training suit was simple and human-made. No special armor plates. No glowing weapons. Yet he did not feel small today. Something inside him felt steady, almost ready. From across the field, Princess Sorexa approached with long, confident steps. Her armor reflected the light like flowing water, and every warrior moved aside when she passed. Eric stood straighter without even thinking. "You slept?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "A little. A little is enough. What matters today is your focus." Eric nodded. "I'm ready." Sorexa studied him for a moment, then looked at the other warriors gathering. Some watched them with curiosity. Others stared at Eric with open dislike. The rival species still didn't understand why a princess chose a human. "Remember what I said yesterday," Sorexa told him quietly. "They will try to make you fail. Not because of who you are, but because they want to prove my decision wrong." Eric looked around the field again. "I understand. Then stay close to me, and do not let their anger enter your heart." The first trial was announced when a loud horn echoed across the arena. A Vorin commander stepped onto a raised platform and spoke with a deep, powerful voice. "Warriors of the Alliance, welcome to the first test. You will face the obstacle path. It is designed to test speed, strength, balance, and judgment." The ground shook lightly as tall mechanical structures rose from beneath the arena. Moving platforms, swinging blades, shifting walls, energy beams, and deep pits appeared in long rows. It looked impossible. Many warriors smiled confidently, ready for the challenge. But Eric swallowed hard. Humans were strong in their own way, but they were not built for such extreme alien tests. Sorexa saw the worry in his eyes. "Do not race them," she said. "Know your own pace. Survive first, then move forward." Eric took a deep breath. Her voice was steady, like it could hold him up even when he doubted himself. He repeated her words in his mind. The horn sounded again, and the warriors rushed into the obstacle path. Some jumped fast across moving platforms, others flew. Some used special energy shields to block the swinging metal arms. Eric moved slower. He watched first, studying the rhythm of the moving platforms, the timing of the beams, the pattern of the swinging blades. His calm observation allowed him to step carefully and avoid danger that others crashed into. A large Korak warrior leaped too quickly and fell into a pit. A winged Uran soldier flew too close to a burning beam and crashed onto the ground with a shout. Warriors moved fast, but not all were thinking as they ran. Eric moved at his steady, careful pace. When a platform shifted, he adjusted. When a wall moved, he slid past it. He got cut lightly on his arm by a swinging blade, but Sorexa saw it and shouted, "Keep moving, human." Her voice gave him courage. He kept going. As Eric reached the second half of the path, he noticed something strange. Several obstacles were malfunctioning. The swinging blades were moving faster than they should. The energy beams were not following their normal sequence. Even the floor shook harder under his feet. Sorexa noticed it too. She shouted at a nearby commander, "The machines are out of control. Shut the system down." But the commander replied from across the arena, "We have no control. Someone has overridden the system." Before Sorexa could respond, a section of the path exploded with sparks. The warriors closest to it jumped back, coughing from the smoke. Eric's heart raced. He knew this malfunction was not an accident. Someone wanted the trials to become dangerous. Someone wanted him to fail, or even get hurt. Sorexa leaped onto the path despite the warnings. Her armor glowed as she moved quickly between obstacles to reach Eric. "Stay where you are!" she shouted as the ground trembled again. But Eric had to move. The platform he stood on cracked down the middle. He jumped to the next one just before it collapsed. Sorexa reached him, grabbed his arm, and pulled him up onto a stable surface. "You were right," Eric said breathlessly. "Someone is trying to make me fail." "Not just fail," she answered. "They want me to lose you." Before Eric could respond, the path shifted violently again. A large swinging blade broke free from its chain and flew straight toward Sorexa. Eric reacted without thinking. He pushed her out of the way and fell to the ground as the blade passed only inches above him. The sharp wind from its movement stung his face. Sorexa stood quickly, her eyes wide. "You saved me." Eric didn't answer. He was catching his breath, still shaken by how close the blade had come. Sorexa looked furious now. But not at him. She turned toward the commanders and shouted, "End the trial, now!" The horn sounded at once. The machines slowed. The energy beams faded. The shifting walls stopped moving. The trial was over. Eric stood up, feeling pain along his ribs from the fall. Sorexa put a hand lightly on his arm. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine," he said. It wasn't true, but he didn't want her to worry. "Come," she said firmly. "We are not staying here." She led him out of the arena, while dozens of warriors watched. Some looked shocked. Others looked angry. A few looked impressed. Eric didn't know which reaction was worse. They walked into a quiet hall, away from the noise. Sorexa finally stopped, turning to face him. Her expression was serious. More serious than he had ever seen. "You saw it," she said. "The machines were not malfunctioning. Someone changed them. Someone wanted you harmed, because you chose me," Eric said softly. "Yes," she replied. Eric lowered his eyes, feeling guilt again. "I didn't mean to bring danger to you, or your world. You are not the cause," she said gently. "You are the reason someone is afraid." "That is different." Eric looked up at her. "Afraid of me? Afraid of what you represent? Afraid of what humans may become? Afraid that I see something in you that they cannot understand?" Eric felt a strange warmth rise in his chest. He had never heard anyone describe him like that. Sorexa continued speaking, her voice softer now. "When you pushed me away from the blade, you showed something no weapon or armor can copy. You have instinct, bravery, and heart. These qualities cannot be taught, they are born." Eric didn't know how to respond. For a moment, he simply breathed, feeling the weight of her words. Sorexa stepped closer to him. "There is something you must know," she said. "I saw a vision before the trials began. A vision of darkness coming to my world. In that vision, I saw a human standing beside me. That is why I chose you." Eric blinked. "A vision?" "Yes. Vorin blood carries the ability to sense possible futures. Not always clear, not always certain. But I saw you. Not your face, not your name, only your presence." Eric felt his breath deepen. He had never imagined that his presence here might be tied to something far greater than a training program. "So this is not just about trials," he said. "There's something coming." Sorexa nodded slowly. "The Hollow Legion. A force that drains life from worlds. They move through the galaxy like shadows, leaving nothing behind. My vision showed them coming to Vorin Prime. And I'm supposed to help stop them?" "I believe so," she said simply. "Even if others do not." Eric felt the responsibility settle into his bones. He didn't feel afraid, not anymore. Instead, he felt the same quiet strength he felt last night. Stronger now. "I will help you," he said. "Whatever comes, I will stand with you." Sorexa looked at him with a calm but warm expression. "I knew you would say that." Before they could say more, a deep rumble shook the ground beneath their feet. A distant alarm echoed through the halls. Sirexa's face turned cold and alert. That alarm is not part of the trials. Eric stepped beside her, ready for anything. What does it mean? She looked toward the window where dark shapes moved across the bright sky. It means, she said quietly, that the threat has arrived sooner than we expected. Eric felt no fear now. Only resolve. Whatever the Hollow Legion was, whatever danger waited outside, he would face it, because he knew she believed in him, and he refused to let her stand alone. The alarm kept ringing through the stone corridors of Vorin Prime, growing louder with each echo. Eric followed Princess Sirexa as she moved quickly toward the outer courtyard, her steps fast and sure. She did not look frightened, but her eyes were sharp and alert. Eric could tell she already knew the truth. Whatever danger she had seen in her vision was beginning now. When they reached the open courtyard, the sky above them was no longer the calm blue of morning. Dark, shadow-like shapes moved slowly across the clouds, blocking the light. Eric felt the air change, as if something cold had wrapped around the entire world. Warriors gathered below, confused and tense, looking upward. A Vorin commander ran toward Sirexa. "Princess, the sensors have identified the intruders," he said in a strained voice. "It is the Hollow Legion." Eric felt the name cut through him. He had heard Sirexa describe them, but seeing them here was different. They drifted like silent ghosts, their ships shaped like long black wings stretching across the sky. The tips of those wings shimmered with pale silver energy. And everywhere those ships passed, the clouds turned gray and lifeless. The commander continued, "Our outer defenses are failing. Their energy drains everything, our shields, our scanners, even some of our weapons." Sirexa tightened her jaw. "Prepare the ground forces. Evacuate civilians from the outer districts. And send scouts to identify their entry point." The commander bowed and hurried away. Eric stood beside Sirexa, watching the sky. "They're already close." "Yes," she said quietly. "Too close." He didn't know what to say. The scale of the enemy seemed beyond anything humans had ever faced. But even as fear tried to pull at him, Eric felt Sirexa's presence beside him. Steady, like a mountain. Her calm gave him strength. A sudden explosion shook the ground under their feet. Bright green sparks shot into the sky from the western gate. Warriors shouted orders as a group of Vorin soldiers rushed toward the noise. Sirexa moved without hesitation. "Come with me." Eric followed her, his heart pounding but his focus sharp. They ran through the archway toward the western gate. Smoke filled the air, and the heat from the blast stung Eric's skin. When they reached the scene, he saw a large tear in the ground where the Legion's first attack had struck. Several Vorin soldiers lay injured, their armor drained of color, as if the energy inside them had been swallowed. Eric knelt beside one soldier whose breathing was shallow. "What happened?" The soldier's voice trembled. "They took my strength. I couldn't move." Sirexa whispered to Eric. "This is their strategy. They don't kill, first they weaken. Once energy is drained, resistance becomes impossible." Eric helped lift the soldier to safety. As he stood again, he noticed strange, shadow-like figures approaching through the smoke. They were not solid. Their bodies flickered like dying flames, and their eyes glowed with pale silver light. Sirexa stepped forward. "The Legion walks," she murmured. The ground forces formed a defensive line. Some raised energy shields. Others activated weapons. But the shadows moved silently. Unaffected by fear or noise, they drifted toward the warriors with slow, deliberate steps. One Vorin soldier shouted and fired a beam of energy at them, but the beam disappeared the moment it touched a Legion figure. Swallowed completely. The soldier froze, shocked. In the next moment, the shadow lunged forward, its arm stretching like smoke, and touched the soldier's chest. The warrior fell instantly, drained of strength. Eric felt his body tense. This was worse than he imagined. These enemies did not bleed, did not flinch, and did not stop. Sirexa pulled out a spear made of bright blue metal. "Stay behind me," she told Eric, but Eric shook his head. "I'll stay with you." She looked at him, not arguing, only accepting his words with a quiet nod. The shadows advanced, and the Voran soldiers fought desperately. Some used heavy attacks, others moved quickly to dodge the Legion's draining touch. Eric watched carefully, trying to understand their movement. Their steps were slow, but their reactions were fast. They did not follow normal patterns of fighting. One shadow drifted toward Eric, its eyes locked on him. He stepped backward, then sideways, noticing something strange. The shadows always aimed for the center of their target, never adjusting their path after the first movement. It was like they committed to a direction and followed it blindly. He took a deep breath and stepped sharply to the left. The shadow missed by inches, sliding past him in a straight line. Unable to turn quickly, Eric saw his chance and kicked the shadow's leg if it even had a leg. To his surprise, the shadow stumbled slightly. Another shadow moved toward him faster this time. Eric dropped low and rolled under its arm. The cold air brushed his cheek, but it didn't touch him. He could feel how dangerous even one touch would be. Sorexa saw what he was doing. "You can read them," she said, sounding surprised. Eric didn't have time to answer. 3 more shadows approached Sorexa. She spun her spear in a glowing arc. The weapon hummed as she struck the closest figure. The blade didn't cut it, but it pushed the shadow backward, like smashing smoke with force. She fought with smooth, powerful movements, her armor glowing brighter with each strike, but there were too many. Eric noticed a pattern. The shadows absorbed energy from weapons and shields, but they reacted differently to physical attacks. They didn't absorb force, the same way they stumbled, slowed, even paused. "Sorexa," Eric shouted. "Don't use energy attacks. They eat it. But force, they react to force." She struck another shadow with the solid back of her spear, and it fell like a fading mist. "You're right," she said. "Tell the soldiers." Eric turned toward the warriors. "Stop using energy weapons. Use physical strikes. Push them. Knock them down." Some soldiers hesitated, but others listened. They changed their approach, switching from glowing blades to solid shields and heavy strikes. The battlefield shifted. The Legion shadows were no longer swallowing every attack, they were being pushed back. Sorexa fought at the front, her movements swift and fierce. Eric stayed close, dodging attacks and helping soldiers when they fell. The more he observed, the more he understood. Humans were often underestimated because they lacked advanced weapons. But here, their instincts, adaptability, and physical training mattered more. One large Legion commander appeared at the far end of the battle. Its form was taller, darker, and more solid than the others, with bright silver cracks running through its chest. When it moved, the other shadows followed. Sorexa saw it too. "That one commands the rest." Eric studied it. Its movements were slower but heavier. Its eyes glowed brighter than the others. The commander stepped toward Sorexa. Eric's heart tightened. He ran to her side. "Don't face it alone." Sorexa didn't argue. She knew Eric was right. The commander raised its long arm and swung at them. Sorexa blocked the strike with her spear, but the force pushed her back several steps. Eric moved beside her and struck the shadow's leg with all his strength. The commander stumbled but did not fall. Eric saw something unusual. When the commander stumbled, the cracks in its chest glowed brighter. It wasn't absorbing physical force, it was reacting to it. Eric shouted, "The chest!" "Hit the chest." Sorexa leaped forward and drove the solid end of her spear into the glowing crack. The shadow let out a silent, shaking scream. Eric followed. Pushing with all his weight, the commander crashed backward onto the ground, its form flickering violently. The sky above them pulsed once, and all the lesser shadows froze for a brief moment, then began to fade like smoke in sunlight. Sorexa pulled her spear back and stepped away from the commander. Arik stood beside her, breathing heavily. Together, they watched as the commander dissolved into thin air, its body breaking into pale particles that drifted upward toward the dark ships. The battlefield grew quiet. Some soldiers stood. Others fell onto their knees, exhausted. The Voran commanders looked stunned. No one had expected the humans seen as the weakest to understand the Legion's weakness first. Sorexa looked at Eric with something like awe. "You changed the battle," she said softly. "Without you, we would have lost many more." Eric shook his head. "I just saw what they were doing. Humans notice different things. That's all." Sorexa stepped closer. "No. You saw what no one else saw. You saved lives today." Before Eric could respond, another deep tremble shook the air. They both turned to the sky. The Legion ships were still there, gathering more energy. "This was only the first wave," Sorexa said quietly. Eric clenched his fists. He was tired, bruised, and breathing hard, but he was not afraid. "I'll be ready for the next one," he said. Sorexa gave a small, grateful smile. "And I will stand beside you." The sky darkened again, and the world braced for the next attack. But Eric felt something different now. The warriors around him no longer saw him as weak. They saw him as someone who could fight, someone who could lead. And Sorexa, she looked at him with a trust deeper than before. The battle was far from over, but the bond between them had already changed the future. The sky over Vorin Prime had turned dark as night, even though the sun had not set. The Hollow Legion's ships hovered above the city like silent monsters, spreading cold shadows across every street. The first wave had been defeated, but the battle was far from finished. Everyone knew the real fight was still coming. Eric stood beside Princess Sorexa on one of the high terraces overlooking the capital. From here, he could see the entire world preparing for war. Soldiers rushed across the streets, shields were raised around buildings, and civilians moved into underground shelters. Yet even with all the movement, fear still hung in the air like a heavy fog. Sorexa placed her hand on a stone railing and spoke quietly. "The Legion is gathering energy. Their second attack will be stronger. If they drain enough power from our world, everything will fall." Eric looked at the ships, studying them the same way he had studied the shadows earlier. "There has to be a way to stop them." "There is," Sorexa replied. "But it requires something dangerous. The Legion ships have a core, a central heart that controls the energy drain. If we destroy that core, their entire force will collapse." Eric nodded slowly. "Then, that's what we do." She turned her head toward him. "Eric, it won't be easy. The core is guarded by the strongest Legion forms. Even our most skilled warriors fear going near it." "I'm not fearless," Eric said simply, "but I won't step back." Sorexa looked at him with a steady gaze. "I chose you because I felt your strength. But today, you showed the entire world why I was right." Eric felt heat rise in his chest, not from fear, but from something close to pride. Her trust in him gave him courage he didn't know he had. A commander approached them, saluting. "Princess Sorexa, the council requests your presence. They want to discuss a plan for the ship assault." Sorexa nodded. "Tell them I will join them soon. First, I must speak with Eric." The commander bowed and left. Eric looked at Sorexa, waiting. She stepped closer, so only he could hear her voice. "The council does not want you involved. They still believe humans are not ready. They think you are too fragile, too inexperienced." Eric felt a small sting of annoyance. He had saved lives today. He had changed the course of the battle, but he kept his voice calm. "And what do you believe?" Sorexa answered softly. "I believe I want you by my side." Eric's breath slowed. There was no doubt in her voice, no hesitation. She trusted him not as a last choice, but as the one she needed most. Before he could speak, another violent tremor shook the ground. The sky flashed silver, and from the Legion ships, long threads of pale energy dropped down like lightning. They touched the surface of Vorin Prime, and wherever the threads struck, buildings dimmed, shields weakened, and even the air seemed to lose warmth. Sorexa clenched her jaw. "They have started the drain. We cannot wait any longer." Eric stepped forward. "Then we go now." The council meeting was brief and full of tension. Many commanders argued that only Vorin elites should attack the Legion Corps. But Sorexa stood firm. "Eric Hale will join the assault team," she said with clear strength in her voice. His understanding of the legions saved this city today. Without him, our forces would have broken. The council argued again, some voices sharp and angry, but Sorexa stopped them with a single sentence. I am the heir of Vorin Prime. The choice is mine. No one opposed her after that. Moments later, the assault team gathered at the launch station. Sorexa, Eric, and 20 elite warriors wearing heavy armor and carrying solid weapons designed to fight beings that absorbed energy. The air inside the launch chamber buzzed with tension. Eric checked his simple gear. It wasn't as advanced as the Vorin armor, but it fit him well and felt light enough to move quickly. One of the elite warriors looked at him and frowned. You are the human? The warrior asked. Yes, Eric replied. The warrior stared at him for a long moment, then nodded once. You fight with heart. Today, that matters more than metal. Eric nodded back. Sorexa walked up to the team, holding her spear. Listen carefully. Our goal is the Legion core. It is located at the center of the largest ship. We will board through the shield gap caused by their energy drain. Once inside, we move quickly. Do not use energy weapons. Strike hard, strike fast. Eric noticed that even the strongest warriors listened closely to her every word. She was not only their princess, she was their hope. The ship that would carry them rose into the air, shaking slightly as they passed through the weakening shields. Vorin Prime glowed beneath them, its lights flickering like candles in a storm. The Legion ships were massive, their black wings spreading across the sky. Eric felt a tight knot in his stomach, but did not show fear. When they reached the Legion vessel, a deep humming vibration filled the air. The hull of the ship looked alive, shifting like thick liquid metal. A bright gap pulsed near the underside, the shield weakness Sorexa had mentioned. Hold on, the pilot shouted. The transport ship shot forward and forced its way into the gap. Metal scraped, energy flared, and then they broke through. The inside of the Legion ship was nothing like anything Eric expected. It was dark but glowing, alive but silent. The walls pulsed like veins carrying pale silver light. The air felt thin and cold, and every sound echoed in strange ways. Sorexa stepped forward. Stay close. The core is straight ahead. The team moved in formation. Shadows drifted at the edges of the corridors, watching but not attacking yet. It was as if they waited for something. As they walked deeper, the pulsing lights grew stronger. Eric's skin tingled, and his breath formed small clouds even though the air should have been warm. What is happening? He whispered. Sorexa answered softly. The ship is feeding. A sudden roar, not a sound of an animal but something like metal tearing, echoed through the corridor. Shadows poured from the walls, forming tall figures with glowing cracks across their bodies. Eric tightened his fists and took a defensive stance. The elite warriors stepped forward, forming a protective circle around Sorexa. They know we're here, she said. The shadows attacked all at once. Eric dodged the first strike and pushed a shadow with his shoulder. It stumbled. Behind him, the Vorin warriors smashed hard with their shields, knocking shadows back but not destroying them. Sorexa fought at the center, her spear moving like living lightning. She struck the shadows in their weak spots, making them flicker. Eric noticed something important again. The shadows reacted strongly when hit near the chest, cracks, the same weakness the commander had shown earlier. Eric shouted, "Aim for the cracks." Warriors adjusted their strikes. The shadows wavered and fell back, but more kept coming. The team moved forward step by step until they reached a massive circular chamber. At the center of the room floated the Legion core, a huge sphere of pale silver energy, pulsing like a beating heart. It sent waves of cold power across the entire ship. Sorexa spoke with urgency. "We destroy it here. Now." But the moment they stepped into the chamber, a massive shadow appeared far taller than any they had faced. Its crack glowed like fire. Eric's breath caught. This must be their guardian. The guardian moved with terrifying speed. It struck 3 elite warriors before anyone could react, sending them crashing to the floor, drained of energy. Sorexa rushed forward. "Eric, stay back." "No," he said, running beside her. "We end this together." The guardian attacked again. Sorexa blocked with her spear, but the force pushed her to her knees. Arik grabbed a fallen warrior's solid shield and slammed it into the guardian's arm. The blow made it stagger slightly, but not enough. Arik saw the crack in its chest again, glowing bright. "Sorexa!" he shouted. "Its heart! Strike the heart!" She leapt forward, but the guardian reacted faster, swinging its massive arm toward her. Arik didn't think, he simply moved. He shoved Sorexa aside and took the full hit to his shoulder. Pain shot through his entire body, and he fell hard, unable to breathe for a moment. "Arik!" Sorexa shouted, rushing to him. He forced a weak smile. "I'm okay. Go finish it." Sorexa rose with fierce determination burning in her eyes. She sprinted toward the guardian, dodged its swing, and drove her spear straight into the glowing crack with all her strength. A violent burst of light exploded across the chamber. The guardian let out a silent scream before breaking into silver dust. The core flickered wildly, losing control. "Everyone out!" Sorexa shouted. Arik struggled to his feet as Sorexa pulled him into her arm. The warriors ran as the ship shook violently around them. Lights shattered, energy veins burst, and the walls cracked open. They reached the transport ship just as the entire Legion vessel erupted in a brilliant flash of silver light. The blast pushed them through the sky and back toward Vorin Prime. When the shaking stopped, Arik opened his eyes and saw the impossible. The dark ships were breaking apart, drifting into dust like snow melting in sunlight. The Hollow Legion had fallen. Cheers echoed across the city. Warriors cried out in victory. For the first time since the alarm rang, Vorin Prime breathed freely. Arik sat back in the ship, exhausted, bruised, but alive. Sorexa leaned beside him, her expression soft. "You saved me again," she whispered. Arik smiled weakly. "I told you I wouldn't step back." She touched his hand gently. "When I pointed at you and said you were mine, it was not a mistake. Today, you proved it to the galaxy." Arik looked at her, feeling something warm and strong grow inside him. "And I'll keep standing with you, wherever you go." Sorexa smiled, a rare and beautiful smile. "Then let the stars hear it. Arik Hale, the human I chose, is the warrior who saved my world." Their ship flew into the brightening sky as Vorin Prime celebrated below, and the bond between them, built on courage, trust, and heart, shined brighter than any victory.